Welcome aboard, everybody. Long time no see. It is the college show. It's week 2 with your two co-hosts. I'm Scott Steen. I'm the lead handicapper at winnersandwhiners.com.
And I'm your co-host, Scott Reichel, senior handicapper of winnersandwhiners.com.
There you go. Together we do this once a week as Scott and I get together and give you guys our 3 favorite college football plays of the week. Hey Jim, if you're listening, we need a new intro. We used the back to the window, Scott. Bring back some memories for you.
Yeah, I recognized it as soon as you played it, but it's better than no intro at all, right?
Absolutely. So it's great to be here. Week 1 is in the books. Scott, you're out to an early lead. You went 2-1 on your plays last week as the UNC App State slightly went over.
Each team slightly went over.
And 124 was 63-61. Is that right?
It went over by 68 points.
Well done. So I believe we would call that a what we would call that
a lightning bet rocking chair.
There we go.
A lightning bet rocking chair. That's what
lightning bet rocking chair. Very good. And I had Army plus 110. They never really showed up against Coastal Carolina. The defense could not get any stops at all. And I also had San Diego State over Arizona.
What the hell was that performance?
Speaking of shit in the bed, holy mackerel! Brand new stadium. You got what should have been at least an upgraded quarterback from where they were last season, and they were just absolutely dreadful. The first 2 teams I took, Scott, got their ass kicked all over the field, up and down. So,
but
not good.
You did win something.
I did. Now you had the South Dakota State Jackrabbits plus 17 against Iowa, and
closed at 10.5, which was wild.
If I it's a good line movement, Scott, because Iowa ends up winning this one 7-3. What was the funny part about the Iowa score?
They didn't have a touchdown.
Two safeties and a field goal. Scott, can you imagine up in there in Iowa? That's where they do the salute to the sick children and their parents up there in the children's hospital. Can you imagine the sick children and their parents having to watch that debacle?
I would have switched hospitals.
You know, I'm sure there was some dad that turned to his child going, well, at least you're not Spencer Petra, so it could be worse.
That was really one of the main reasons I had my handicap was the fact that he's still quarterback. And he had a QBR of what, 1.1?
1.1. Now, in fairness, the defense played well. The Jackrabbits quarterback had a rating of 0.
I think it was the first time in my life I've ever seen a team fully get punted to death. And that's really what I witnessed, because Iowa's punter was absolutely incredible the entire day.
It's like the way before your time. It's like the old Southwest Conference with Texas and Baylor and A&M, where that was the game.
SMU?
SMU was in that conference as well. TCU. It was all about field position, punt for field position, man. And you'd see 10-7 games, 10-3, 13-10. That's just grind it out. But in my nightcap, I did rally for a victory as Western Kentucky went to the Big Island, and they had about a half of a hangover, but then they showed up in the second half and won that one going away there, and so they covered the 16. And the gambling gods aligned and smiled on me as you and your first quarter fucking bet down in flames.
It was such a good read, too, for the first 10-plus minutes, and then it just didn't matter.
Texas State, Nevada first quarter, under 12.5. Not on your life, Charlie, as Texas State. Not good, Scott.
You had 0 points in the first 10-plus minutes. Touchdown. It's like, all right, that's fine. Just don't throw an interception inside your own 25. Interception inside your own 30. And then it was 3rd and 10 with like 2 minutes to go. I'm like, all right, field goal. I still win. They ran a draw on 3rd and 10.
Oh, you love that.
Picked up like 22 yards, and they scored a touchdown with like a minute to go and whatever. So 2 touchdowns in basically the final 4:20 just to kill my bet. Texas State was a disaster, but the first quarter, interception into a draw for something on 3rd and 10, whatever. It happens.
I had a first quarter play with the Chiefs minus 6.5 in the first quarter. And they lose the first quarter 3-0. They have the ball at about the 20. They score a touchdown first play of the second quarter. And after the kickoff, pick six, second play of the second quarter. So 25 seconds into the second quarter, I covered.
Yeah.
But yeah, my first quarter bet went down in flames. So let's get to it, buddy. Let's talk about our three favorite picks. And due to popular demand and no small amount of guilt tripping on my part to young Master Rachel, we are going to be doing a bet the farm play for today. Now, Scott,
for college football, for the record.
College football, yes, that was the question Scott asked me as we're prepping for the college football show. Said we're going to do a farm. He said, should it be about like anything? Like, well, maybe try to do one with college football since we're doing the college football show. So we talked for half an hour about college football show and then tell you why you should bet the Nationals tonight. No. So it is going to be.
We got 7 free college football plays on the show instead of 6.
That's right. You're getting 7 free college, including our best one. So
what is that, like a half baker's dozen? Is that what they call it?
That's a
6 for 7.
Yeah, it's better than half a baker's dozen. Yeah. So very good. All right. Well, let's get to it. We got banners and everything. Now, Scott, I want to prepare everybody in advance. You will not be wearing your hat. You've been quarantined away from your hat for about a week and a half now. You'll be going back today, but you will not have a hat. So going forward, you will have your hat.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Very good. I'm going to start off because, as we say, Scott,
losers walk.
Losers walk. That's exactly correct. I'm going to talk about a game that I actually had a ticket to, Scott, and I will not be attending this game because it is my granddaughter's 10th birthday party. It's not on her birthday. Just happens to be on the Saturday around.
Is that an upgrade or a downgrade? I think that's a good question to ask based on the event.
This game?
Yeah.
Oh, I was anxious. Are you kidding me? I was anxious to see this game.
I'm not sure which game you're talking about, so that's why I was asking.
It is the Mizzou K-State game. The revenge battle there of the Big 12 days. One is my alma mater. The other one is my son's alma mater that I ended up going to a lot of games and kind of de facto making them my team as well. So it's very difficult to pick a side in this one. K-State 8.5-point favorites. Personally, I think that's a lot of points, but the play I'm much more excited to make is the under 56.5. I believe this is a number that's just been set way too high. Now, both of these teams, week one, opened with varying degrees of cupcakes on their schedule. Kansas State opened with South Dakota. They won it in a shutout as they went absolutely nuts as far as running the football. And Deuce Vaughn, talked about him a lot if you're a regular of this show. Probably one of the best players you've never heard of. If you're not a K-State Big 12 type fan, he averaged 8 yards a carry. He did fine. And Mizzou did the same thing. They ran over Louisiana Tech, mainly on the strength of running the football. Neither one of these coaches looked too anxious to see their new quarterbacks throw the ball down the field. Of course, Martinez gives you the
mobility,
the ability, and man, I don't know what word I was looking for. The
extendability.
No, it was the aspect or the added dimension. There you go.
Okay, there you go.
Old man brain. He gives you the added dimension of being a running quarterback as well. Mizzou's quarterback is a decent runner. He's mobile. He's not the runner that Martinez is, obviously. But here's my point about this. I think the defenses are good enough. That's they both have pretty stout fronts. I think these are teams that are going to want to run the football repeatedly. I think you're going to see a lot of running clock. And I just think 56.5. Honestly, Scott, I think it's about 5 points too high. I think this is a great number to get this game at. And I'll take Mizzou K-State under 56.5.
Okay. And for mine, I'm going to go to one of the main TV games involving Bama and Texas. And I heard Texas might be back because they beat UL Monroe by 40 last week. I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to pump the brakes on Texas a little bit. I'm going to go with Bama minus the 20 here. I think at the end of the day, Bama is either the best team in the country or tied with Georgia. I don't think anyone's close to those two teams. I think we can agree on that. But Texas, even though they won 52-10, offensively, they really didn't do much against UL Monroe, which sounds crazy, but they only had 383 total yards of offense. They had a punt return touchdown and a pick six. So offensively speaking, Texas really only scored about 38 points, which sounds impressive, but the yard count, if I told you a team's playing UL Monroe and you have a top 5-star, quarterback, How many yards do you think you're putting up? Like 500?
Oh yeah, yeah.
383. I think that's a bit of a potential overreaction how good Texas offense looked in week 1. Meanwhile, Bama played Utah State. Utah State might be a bit of a down year compared to their conference title winning season last year, but they won 55 to nothing. They gave up 136 total yards. I believe they gave up 7 total first downs in the entire game. Not to mention the fact Bryce Young's the defending Heisman winner, and they have a lot of weapons on offense in the ground game and the passing game. Texas defense is extremely inexperienced. Sarkisian's not exactly a good defensive-minded guy because he's an offensive coach. I just think Bama's going to kill this team. We've seen this movie time and time again. Bama plays an out-of-conference opponent that's supposed to be a somewhat competitive game, and Bama beats them by 3 touchdowns minimum, probably by 30. I just think Texas is, I'll just say, playing above its skis here. Bama is also really good historically in the second week of the season. In Bama's second game of the season, Bama's won by 27 plus points in each of the last 8 seasons. So the second game of the season, Bama wins by 27 plus in each of the last 8. I think they kill Texas here. No offense to the home crowd. You're going to see an offensive explosion, just not by the team you want. Give me Bama probably like 45 to 20. I just think 20 is too low.
Yeah, I agree. I don't say that often about a 3-point or 3 touchdown favorite in a game.
It's not even 3. That's the point. I think 21 is a pretty reasonable final margin.
Yeah, I think that you kind of downplayed the Utah State angle because that's a really good. That's a team that won the Mountain West last year.
Yeah, I'm saying they won their conference. They're weaker this year because UConn kind of held them a bit in check. But there's a difference between scoring no points or getting held to no points and having 7 first downs in 60 minutes.
Yeah, that's an offense that put up 46 points on San Diego State in the conference championship game last year.
Yeah.
So, and San Diego State, obviously, well, at least until their last 2 games, had a really good defense. So I think that's an incredible 55-0. I had Utah State in the points in that game. I'm not gonna lie. I thought that was there was some value there. And yeah, once again, you fall into the Bama trap. Yeah, I can't get away from that play.
I've seen this movie too many times.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, so moving on to my second pick, I'm going to talk about that Iowa team with Spencer Petras and an Iowa State team with a new quarterback name of do you know his name?
For Iowa State?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody better than Brock Purdy?
Yep, Deckers.
So I was right. Yeah, it's very, I was close. It's an alternative pronunciation.
He went 25-31 against SEMO last week, 293. So he's in the 9 and change.
I still can't believe Purdy got drafted, but that's a separate story.
He almost made a roster.
That must be a really bad roster.
Well, the K-State kid made the Miami roster.
He was great in preseason.
Dominated in preseason, yeah.
I'm saying he actually had like good numbers. Purdy,
yeah.
I've never been a Purdy guy, but okay, either way.
So we talked about the Iowa game, the 7-3 victory there over South Dakota State. Jackrabbits, good team. Iowa State dominated Southeast Missouri State, and not a good team at all. The SEMO, the Cardinals, usually dreadful at football. So we learned absolutely nothing there. I know the defense played really good. They gave up really nothing until garbage time. So I think this is an Iowa State team that, despite their offensive output last week, is the defense is still ahead of their offense. The Iowa offense, I don't know what you do with that. Guys, is there any hope there?
If you have the under, which you do.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do if you're the Iowa coach? How do you fix that offense?
You don't have many playmakers in general, but it's why I took South Dakota State last week, because I don't think Iowa's going to score many points at any given game. And a lot of their points from last year were also set up by a lot of short fields early in the season because they forced, 5 turnovers each game for the first 3 weeks? It was something crazy, but they're going to have to switch quarterbacks at some point. Petras isn't good. And I don't know how that team made the conference title game last year. It tells you how bad the West Division is in the Big Ten.
And it does. I was looking at that last night when I was.
It's a mess.
That division, it's almost as bad as the SEC, but not quite, because you've got Georgia on one side of the SEC, and then you got nothing. And on the West Division of the Big Ten, you've got nothing.
I'd compare it to the Sun Belt this year. You have like Lafayette who's rebuilding, and like Troy and South Alabama, and you have like App State, Georgia State, all these other things on the other side. And it's like, all right, cool. I guess that's how that works. But my main reason why I roasted Iowa last week was because they got exposed offensively pretty much all season long, especially in the conference title game against Michigan. And their main response to getting blown out in their conference title game, let's bring the whole band back together. Excuse me? What? What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah. Unless you're
now, I don't think their backup's any good, but at least he's mobile. Petras isn't even mobile.
Unless you're implementing some kind of new system with new coordinators, and if you've got some reason to think things might go differently, sure. But if you're just implementing the same offense with the same participants,
you're smashing your head against the wall.
Well, that's the definition.
And that's what Wisconsin's doing as well, because they have Mertz. Like, nobody uses the transfer portal. It doesn't make any sense. But Iowa decided we're going back to Petras, and you scored no touchdowns against an FCS school. I know that's a good FCS school. You have the under 40. It sounds low. It's not. Would you be shocked if neither team reached 20 in this game? Of course not.
No. I wouldn't be afraid to play an alternative 37 or 36 and a half here. I think
both teams will play the field position game, 4th and 2, opponent 45. They're punting.
I just feel horrible for those sick kids.
So do I.
Just forced to watch that. Is it the game? Is it the chemo? I don't know. Something's making me throw up. All right. I'm done tiptoeing through the jokes about sick kids. That was it can come to no good end. So let's move on. What do you got for your next game?
So my next pick, I'm going to go with a dog. It worked out well last week, but I'm not going to pick an FCS game this time. However, I am going to take another road dog. I'm going to take Virginia. I'm going to go with the Cavaliers plus 4.5 on the road against Illinois. First of all, 4.5 at minus 115 is a bargain. Every other book has 3.5 or 4, but I saw FanDuel went rogue, so I ended up going with the extra half point there for really no additional juice. Virginia had a cupcake in week 1, played against Richmond, dominated the first half, took its foot off the gas, didn't really care. But the point is, since it had Richmond in week 1, I can guarantee you Virginia's been looking ahead to this game all offseason. Illinois could not do that because it played 2 games, including a road game against Indiana. So Illinois didn't exactly have ample time to prepare for this matchup. Meanwhile, if you look at what happened in that game against Indiana, Illinois probably should have won. They lost 23-20. They committed 4 turnovers. I'm not a DeVito guy, so I'm not surprised. And they let Bazelak. Now, I know Bazelak was a quarterback you watched a decent amount at Missouri. Any thoughts on Bazelak?
We weren't sorry to see him go.
So that's one way to put it. Bazelak actually torched this Illinois defense for 330 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns, including the game-winning drive in about the final 2 minutes. But we know Armstrong's back at quarterback for Virginia. It's not the same run-and-shoot offense under Mendenhall, but they do have Elliott, the former offensive coordinator from Clemson, and I do like his work in general. They have a lot of weapons with Wicks, Thompson, Kemp IV, and they also got Lavelle Davis Jr. back from injury last year as he got injured with an ACL injury. But Illinois has been awful at rushing the passer so far this season. Illinois has 1 sack in the first 2 games combined against Indiana and Wyoming. That's not good. They have not done a good job at really providing any stress to opposing quarterbacks. And Illinois is 1-5-1 ATS in its last 7 non-conference games. Virginia has an experienced defensive line. I'm not saying they're going to fully stop Illinois' rushing attack, but I do think Illinois is going to really have a hard time stopping Armstrong in this passing attack. I see a coin flip game that should be a nail-biter down the stretch. If you're going to give me 4.5 and what I think is a coin flip, I'm going to take it. So I'm going to take Virginia plus 4.5.
All right. Very good.
You have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I was a little bullish on this Illinois team after watching them dominate a generally decent Wyoming team. I thought this would be a little closer matchup. I did have Illinois to cover there, but I didn't think they'd win by 32, which is exactly what happened. And then, as you alluded to, Connor Bazelak and the Indiana Hoosiers pull out the win last week, and that Illinois defense just couldn't stop them, especially when they needed to. So
4 turnovers offensively as well. But Illinois has been very good against the run. That doesn't bother me because I want Armstrong to throw the ball 40-something times anyway.
Yeah.
But if Bazelak's going to torch you for 330, I know you want to be more balanced with Elliott as the coach. At some point, you got to realize who you're against, and you're going to let Armstrong throw it 40 times.
Well, that's
I think he's going to throw it around the parking lot.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see how patient they are because Virginia took care of Richmond, but they ran 75 plays, so they got to run a lot of plays, and they were pretty balanced. I think they were like 39-36 or 38-37, so they were right there as far as the mix goes. Yeah, I'm okay with this. I wish it was at home.
Yeah,
but I probably don't like it as much as I like your other pick there in Bama. So, well, we'll see. I don't hate it.
I just thought that this line should be closer to 3, something like that. I think that out of my 3 picks, this is probably the weaker one.
Right.
But I still think that Illinois basically winning by 6+ with with Bielema as the head coach. Does he ever win easy games against decent opponents? No, it's always a crapshoot. So give me Illinois by 3. We're both happy, I guess. I don't really care.
Sometimes when you're playing trivia, or you're watching a question and answer show, and somebody gives an answer, you go, I know that's not the right answer. I don't know what the right answer is. But I know that's not it. I feel that way about Illinois. I don't know if Illinois is going to beat the number or not, but I would under no circumstances bet on them to cover 4.5.
I'm expecting at least a one possession game late. I'll take my chances. I think Virginia might win the game, but it's a coin flip in my eyes, so I'll take the 4.5.
All right, fair enough. And I'm going to complete the third pick of mine. And Scott, there's a theme here.
Under trilogy.
It's going to be underwhelming, buddy. It's going to be Syracuse and UConn under 49.5. I think this UConn defense is taking a step up. They've got a real coach now, Scott. What do you think about that?
Moore's been, doing pretty well. I mean, it's not his fault the starting quarterback broke his leg in the first quarter of the season, but the defense has been decent.
Defense has been decent, and that's exactly what I was going to talk about, is the fact that they're already playing their second-string quarterback. Syracuse defense was fantastic last week against Louisville.
Caught me off guard, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and they turned the ball over 2 interceptions and a fumble. So I think that I think that the Syracuse defense is going to be able to do a job on this UConn offense, which isn't they're not the patsies they have been in the past. They're a work in progress. They're still not there yet. I've got them 10 or less. I don't think they get much above 10 in this one.
Well, the backup can't throw.
That's what I'm saying. So they're going to have to run. They're going to have to run the football to have any kind of success. Obviously, that takes time. I think they can hold Syracuse enough in check to keep this one under the total of 49.5. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think the under is a solid play. I don't think UConn's going to contribute anything, so I thought maybe you might go for a team total angle. I don't know what to think about Syracuse. I can't tell. I know both of us just happen to be on the same exact play for Friday night. We're fading Louisville, but I can't tell how much of week 1 was Louisville being god-awful under Satterfield's last breath, or maybe Babers actually has a decent team in Syracuse. Could be both.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of games like that in week 1 where you go, well, I don't know if this team is horrible or I don't know if this team is actually good. I'll give you a great example of
that Syracuse defensive line, though, dominated. That's a good sign for this game.
Well, you had the first game with Vanderbilt and Hawaii.
Yeah.
So Vanderbilt runs all over them. And you're like, well, is Vandy actually a member of the SEC? Or is Hawaii just god-awful? Well, Hawaii plays the next week, and you go, oh, they're just god-awful. So now what do we know about Vandy, Scott? Anything?
No, Vandy beat an FCS school. They're 2-0. They haven't been 2-0 since who? Jay Cutler was there?
Right.
For a long time.
So, I don't know. Is this Vandy team for real? That's another one. So, yeah, it's just we don't have much of a body of work.
It could be 35-10. Like, Syracuse could play well, and you still cash this easily because I'm not sure if UConn's going to move the ball that much.
That's what I'm thinking. See, I'm thinking UConn gets to 10, and Syracuse stays under 40.
Yeah, that sounds fair.
I think UConn holds the ball long enough. I think UConn has a couple of drives where they, 7-8 play drives where they maybe pick up a first down or two and then have to punt and put Syracuse deep enough in their own territory where it's time-consuming drives every time they have to go. So that's my thought on this one. So
plus, you got to also talk about the look-ahead spot because Syracuse plays against UConn on the road. They have a home game against Purdue up next, so there's not really an incentive to run up the score. If they're up by 3 touchdowns late, 31-10 or whatever. They're going to pull everyone because Purdue's a pretty big game up next.
Right.
So,
yep. If they start the season with 2 impressive victories, that game against Purdue becomes huge for rankings and stature and things like that. So, all right, very good. What do you got for last play?
So for the last one, we just talked about potential overreactions. You mentioned Hawaii. We talked a little about Louisville, maybe Syracuse being pretty good. We got to talk about the team that had the worst performance in week 1, and I don't think it's very close.
In the Navy.
And I think the main reason why they struggled, they were on land. They couldn't do anything the entire game. Delaware is a pretty decent FCS school. Is that a fair statement? They're not like top 5, but they're pretty decent.
They're not a perennial playoff contender, but they're okay. They're better than average.
So Navy's defense did what they were supposed to do against an FCS school. They only gave up 14 points. However, they only scored 7. They scored 7 points at home against an FCS school, and they lost. Navy committed 3 turnovers. They only had 319 yards. They also had like 100-plus passing yards. The ground game really did nothing the entire time. Memphis was not good in week 1 either. They got blown out against Mississippi State. However, Mississippi State's in the SEC, potentially a ranked team at some point this season.
Right.
That's more excusable than losing at home to Delaware. And Mississippi State did what Mike Leach's teams do. They threw for 450 passing yards. As far as I know, Navy can't throw. So I'm not really concerned by the pass defense that Memphis displayed or the lack thereof in week 1. But I'm looking at Memphis's overall roster. Hennigan's still back at quarterback. They have a pretty good running back core and a pretty good receiving core. Last year, Memphis just scored at will. They just would have a couple 3-play drives, 80 yards. Good luck trying to catch these guys, and an immediate touchdown. I see a similar story here. Memphis has a pretty decent defensive line and a pretty decent linebacking core, which is all that matters against Navy. But they couldn't block against Delaware. I think Memphis will get penetration. I think you'll force a couple of really ugly drives from Navy. And Navy's defense, despite the performance against Delaware, I don't think is very good. So I think Memphis should have some success through the air. Hennigan's a good quarterback. And Memphis has also done well in the recent meetings. Memphis is 3-0 in the last 3. 2 of those 3 wins have been by at least 12 points. I'm fine with I like to acknowledge overreactions. I don't think this is an overreaction because Navy's win total going into the year was like 3.5 or 4.5. This team might suck. And you talk about the issues Navy runs into at the offense. There's really 1 or 2 main things you need. The first thing, good offensive line. Obvious. I mean, that's a no-brainer. The second thing, you need a fast quarterback. You need a guy who can get to the second level quickly, either a Malcolm Perry or a Reynolds, any of those guys. They brought back the quarterback from last year in Lavatai, who I didn't really like last year. I don't think he's very good. He's a physical runner. He reminds me of Zach Abbey when he was there at Navy for a couple of years. And the coincidence, or not even coincidence, the common theme, both those teams sucked. They need a fast quarterback. Lavatai is not the guy. He's an okay thrower, not great. But Memphis laying 5 here, I think they're going to score 30-plus points. I think they're just going to air it out. I think Navy's going to have any answers. But I don't trust Navy's offense. So give me Memphis to win this game by at least 6 points. And I don't think it's an overreaction. I just think Navy's really, really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we made a big enough deal about how horrible they were running the football. They ran the ball 63 times for 189 yards. That's
against Delaware.
Against Delaware. That's less than 3 yards a carry against Delaware. Lavatai, you talked about him, he ran the ball 18 times for 34 yards. However, one of those runs went for 14, so the other 17 went for 20 yards.
It's not good.
Just a skosh over a yard a carry.
I'm not saying Memphis has a good defense, but at least it's good enough to limit Navy to maybe 20 points. They scored 17 last year.
Is there a universe where you try to make the case that the Delaware defense is better than the Memphis defense?
I'm not going to make that case.
Yeah.
It's really tough when you go from one extreme to another extreme because you go from the Mike Leach system of we're never going to run the ball to we're only going to run the ball, and you're hoping you can get some stops there for Memphis. The defensive line's okay, but last year Navy only scored 17. It's an issue of just really having an underwhelming number of players playing key positions because you can't really recruit. No. And you can't bring in transfers, and the team's not very good from top to bottom. I'm not going to overreact to Memphis getting killed by an SEC school. That's excusable. Memphis should be motivated. I think they get back on track.
Okay. Yeah, I think 17 isn't going to get Navy the cover.
I think Memphis probably scores 30.
That's my prediction. That's my prediction for this game. If Navy doesn't score more than 17, they will not cover. So, all right, very good. So just to recap, now I got lazy because I put them on the sheet and I didn't write them down here. So just to recap real quick, I've got Mizzou, K-State under 56.5, Iowa State, Iowa under 40.5, and Syracuse, UConn under 49.5. It's an underwhelming week. Scott, what do you got?
So I got Bama minus 20 at minus 110 on Fox Bet. I have Virginia plus 4.5 at minus 115 on FanDuel. And I have Memphis minus 5 at minus 110 on DraftKings.
All right. Very good. Well, Scott, due to popular demand, it's back. It's time to do that thing where we have put our heads together. We've thought about it. We've bounced some probabilities and possibilities around.
Get the tractor ready.
Get the tractor ready, kids. Climb aboard. I know you dust them off. Get those dusty overalls back on. Strap them on. Put on your John Deere, your straw hat, if you will. Climb aboard your tractor. Put the keys in and fire that bad boy up. Let's see if I can remember how to do this, Scott. It is time once again to bet the farm. I got there he is. There it is.
Ma'am.
Afternoon, Scott. All right, very good. Well, Scott, we didn't get a chance to do this because we didn't do a show after our last show because it was our last show. So, Scott, I know we had a bet the farm play a couple of months ago. We had the Dodgers on the run line plus 120. How did that go?
I don't remember the game. I believe it was against the Padres against Snell. I think they won 4-0. They definitely covered, so we won.
Cue the banjos!
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a bet the farm put together for today. We didn't do all the bullet points, but I'm gonna let Scooter McBeard run through the bullet points. Our bet the farm play is going to be the USC Trojans minus 7.5. Minus 115 at FanDuel against the Stanford Cardinals. Scott, tell us why we hate the trees.
So, for the most part, first of all, 7.5 is a very good line. FanDuel really went rogue this week. They're like a point off on most of these games. Most books have USC at 8.5 or so.
I was finding 8.5 everywhere. Absolutely.
USC had 3 defensive touchdowns last week, but if you ignore those, they still scored 45 points in week 1 against Rice. We know that Lincoln Riley's got a great offensive system. Caleb Williams came over. They got Addison as a transfer from Pittsburgh. A lot of weapons, a lot of speed, a lot of talent. Stanford has not exactly been good in the past couple of years of the Shaw era. Now, they were good in week 1 against Colgate. Congratulations. The issue is McKee is still the quarterback. We saw him last year. Do you like him?
Not a massive fan, no.
I don't think he's very good, but the point is, they're going to try to run the ball. They have Emmitt Smith's son, who's pretty good. But USC's defense actually made a lot of plays last week, and I do think they can force some turnovers. I think they can create some serious problems for Stanford just athletically. And Stanford, they're going to be spread out wide. We know Lincoln Riley's going to try to go 4 wide or 5 wide. They're going to have linebackers on wide receivers, and they're going to have Addison on 101 coverage. We just think Caleb Williams, who went 19 for 22 last week, is going to have another very good game. And we're going to dare Stanford to keep pace. We don't think Stanford gets many stops here. We think USC probably scores, like 34, maybe more than that in this game. I'll dare Stanford to get to 27. Out of them to get there. I see this game being 34, 38 to 24, something like that. But I like USC winning by double digits.
Yeah, I think double-digit win is a real possibility here. So, all right, there it is. That's the farm. That's USC minus 7.5. That's going to do it for the farm. That's going to do it for the show. As always, thanks for stopping by. We're really doing this show because you guys asked for it. And, Scott, I've got to be honest with you, I forgot how much fun we had doing this show for the last couple of years. So it's good to be back. And hopefully we've each given you 3 solid picks and a
bonus.
a good farm, huh?
Yeah, and a bonus.
And a bonus and a farm bonus. That's right. So, Scott, thanks for joining me, buddy.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Of course. And don't forget to check out all the great handicappers at winnersandwhiners.com. And don't forget to get over to our YouTube channel and check out the cool little show. Scott, have you seen the show yet?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Solid stuff.
Make sure you check it out. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. All right. You guys take care. Have a great day. We'll see you again next week on whatever we're calling this, our college show.